sense of kind of how this is really affecting how things are going to go forward and what it's really going to mean for the rest of us. Um, Back in the 1970s, and this is funny. You might find this interesting. Xerox, the company that used to do printers, right? I think they're still around, right? Xerox there came up with a really interesting idea for their executives for a tax dodge, and they called it. Basically, it was a defined contribution or defined benefit plan, right? Or contribution plan. Sorry. So the idea is, me, executive at Xerox, I could put money into this account, and it would be tax deferred. So I could put it in this account, invest it. It would be tax deferred. I wouldn't pay taxes until I pulled the money out. Right? And I could put more and more money in there and save it for when I'm older, or I could use it as an inheritance or whatever. This got passed, and you guys all know it as a 401k plan. But what happened when it got passed was it couldn't just be for executives. They set up rules where it had to be for all the employees. And it was a supplement to retirement. And they thought, oh, that's not bad. Because back in the 70s, the standard retirement plan, you had Social Security, you had a pension. Almost everybody who had worked for a company had a pension. And then you'd have whatever your savings was. So now you had three things. So you'd have Social Security, which pays out for life, your pension, which pays out for your life, and then you'd have some savings. So you should be fine. You'd be getting a check, two checks every month in retirement, and you'd be getting whatever you can do with your savings. Right? Well, what happened is pensions are expensive, and companies had to keep them funded. And in the 80s, it made them targets for takeovers, because if I have to have all this cash on hand for my pension, it makes me more attractive to be bought out by larger companies who will then take the cash and cancel out the pension. So a lot of these companies paid out or canceled out their pensions. So there weren't any more pensions. And Gen X, starting in the 90s, was the first generation to start out with no pensions for the most part. A lot of the boomers got them still, but almost none of the Gen Xers did. So all the Gen Xers are just relying on Social Security, and could they save enough from their 401ks? And remember what we said earlier, there have been 4 recessions, massive recessions, in the last 20 years, 25 years. So what do you think the market did for their 401ks? So this is an interesting article. So Gen X is the 401k experiment generation. Here's how that's playing out. Gen X has been the alpha tester for the 401k retirement system, and the gloomy results are rolling in. Who could have seen that coming? Nearly half of Gen Xers say their retirement savings are behind schedule, according to the newly released Goldman Sachs retirement survey. Many Gen Xers got a late start transitioning to 401k plans and struggled to catch up. Senior retirement strategist with Goldman Sachs Assets Management told Yahoo Finance, even now, half haven't calculated how much total retirement savings they'll need, how to save and invest and achieve that goal, or when they can afford to retire. That's significant, as the oldest in this cohort will turn 60 next year. In many ways, Gen X, those born between 65 and 80, has led our nation's experiment in the shift away from a pension system to a 401k system, requiring individuals to save and prepare for their own retirement. This is the first generation to rely primarily on their own individual savings through 401k-like plans, and therefore we refer to them as the 401k experiment generation. So, just so you guys know the difference, there used to be defined benefit plans, which is what a pension is, where they take some money out of your paycheck every month, right? So Lacey and I work for the same company, and they take some money out of our paychecks and they put it in a big pool. And then when we retired, based on how much we made, right, and how much we put in, we'd get a check every month until we died when we retired, right? This was a great way to keep employees, too, because nobody wanted to fucking dump their pensions, right? You wouldn't, I mean, if you had a pretty sizable pension, you'd stay with that company until you could get it. So that's how it used to work, but at least we get a check every month until we died, based on that. Now, a 401k is a defined contribution plan. So they take the money out of our check, and it goes into the 401k, and it's invested, and then when we retire, we get our 401k, and then we have to figure out how to spend that money. But then when that money's gone, it's gone. There's no security. As with the pension, I was going to get a check until I died. With a 401k, it's just what's there. And if I don't manage it correctly or the market crashes or whatever, it's all on me. And that's what's happened to them, and they don't have enough in there. And especially now, because we've talked about this before, less than half of companies offer a 401k anymore. So a lot of millennials and don't even have that. All they're going to have is Social Security, unless they start saving. And even then, a lot of them don't know how to do that because they'd have to do it on their own. But you can go sign up, wherever you want to go, Charles Schwab, E-Trade, wherever. Get a 401k or an IRA and start saving and investing. But yeah, doesn't hurt to do that, kids. But yeah, we're going to see. You're going to have a lot of Gen Xers who are going to be really poor in their older years. And that's going to be a huge financial burden on the millennials and Generation Alpha. Because we can't, we're not going to let them all just be homeless on the street and barely living off whatever little bit of Social Security they're getting, a couple grand a month, maybe. Because you're going to have a huge poverty problem with the elderly.
Right.
And are they going to
be able to... A couple grand a month, that's kind of a high estimate.
Yeah. And even then, that means most of them are going to be on food stamps, Medicaid, all that. It's going to strain the safety net system unless we make it more robust, which means higher taxes. This is what happened when let's just lower taxes on the rich. No, we need to start thinking about what we're going to do for all these huge populations going forward. It's the key.
Average,
go ahead.
The average Social Security benefit is a little over $1,700.
That's the average, yeah.
Yeah, that's the average right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Most of my clients are middle class, so they're getting close to the max, right? They're getting close to $3,000, but yeah.
But that's not the average.
That's above average. Max. Yeah, but
and,
you have to have a little bit of money.
I've had a lot of clients that are getting less. Yeah. I've had a lot of clients that are getting less. I've seen a lot of checks that are around like $1,300, right, which is not nothing. If you had a pension right next to it, right, and your saving right next to it, right, that would all kind of match together in a pretty tidy little way for you. But if that's the bulk of it, a $1,300 check.
Yeah, if you were getting
rough.
$1,300 plus you were getting $2,500 or $3,000 a month from a pension, plus you had $150,000 or $200,000 in savings, you'd be fine. Because you'd be getting the $3 or $4 every month. You'd be fine, right? Wouldn't be living in luxury or anything, but you'd be okay. Now it's like, well, maybe all they're getting is $15,000 a year. You can't even afford an apartment on that, let alone to eat. And then they're going to be old. They're going to have medical expenses and all that. It's one of those things where you got to think about these things long term, individually, but at the same time, we need to think about these things collectively, because what happens is you get these mass populations that are screwed, and then the rest of us end up having to bite the bullet. And who ends up biting the bullet? The middle class and the poor, not the rich. The rich are going to be fine. They're living in a socialist economy. We're living in a capitalist economy where we all have to fight each other. That's the problem. Yep, socialism for me, not for thee, kind of thing. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. We could have told you that years ago. We've been talking about this for 20 years in the finance industry. That it used to be the three legs of the stool: Social Security, pension, savings. Now it's just Social Security and savings, and for the millennials, it might just be Social Security, because we haven't had the ability to save because we've gotten paid less. And a lot of companies don't offer us 401ks anymore. So it's all on you. And we'll see what happens with that.